This video will be sectioned in two parts. In the first section I will talk about original Dragon's Dogma, and in the second I will list the things I want to see in Dragon's Dogma 2. According to the rumors, it's in development. Okay, let's begin. Dragon's Dogma is a rushed and unfinished game released by Capcom in 2012, with questionable core gameplay systems, like how the game decides to do damage calculation, healing methods, stories all over the place, not always smart NPC companions, outdated graphics, namely terrible textures. That said, I fucking love this game. This is why people like me have a soft spot for Dragon's Dogma. The combat is punchy and feels so impactful. It captures perfectly the weight of a giant greatsword, the nimbleness of sword and shield, the quickness of daggers, the punch of a great arrow, and the destruction of Mage's staff. Speaking of mages, the other action games are still yet to capture the destruction and spectacle of Dragon's Dogma's sorcerer class. It's not even close. The 9 classes that are called vocations in this game give you completely different playstyles. There are even some mixed vocations like Mystic Knight that have magic in his kit as well as melee attacks, and a very unique magic archer that uses 2 daggers as a primary weapon and a magic bow that shoots magic arrows as a secondary arm. Now this vocation system is the reason why I'm making this video. Your vocations determines your entire moveset, everything down to basic movements. Agile jobs have the dodge ability that warriors and mages don't have access to. Mages get the levitate ability that allows for more fun traversal and access places that other classes will have difficulties with or won't access at all. Needless to say, it changes not only the combat feel of the class but the general feel of it. That's important to me in games. You're not just a guy with a staff, you are a mage with weak HP and armor but packs terrifying spells. You aren't a guy with a sword and shield, you are a fighter, great at counters and the king of grounded combat. Another game that does this well is Monster Hunter. Every weapon feels like playing a completely different character. I'd say it's done even better in that game. But not everything about the vocation system is great. The biggest problem, of course, is the fact that you gain certain amount of attack and defense after leveling up as a certain class. For example, a sorcerer gets 16 health, 15 stamina, 2 attack, 1 defense, 5 magic attack per level. If you feel like trying another playstyle in the mid-late game, your start growth will actively get crippled. Because if you want to switch to a melee vocation at the semi-high level, after being a sorcerer, you are going to lose a lot of attack, health and defense. This is a problem in a game where switching classes is made so easy and convenient. After you figure out how start growth works, you are actively discouraged from trying another vocation. This problem was actually fixed in a game called Dragon's Dogma Online. When you switch classes in that game, your stats won't carry over to that vocation, but you will have to level from level 1 again. But it's fair, since it was an MMO. While on the topic of Dragon's Dogma Online, I loved how the Strider, Assassin and Ranger were reworked into 2 completely different jobs. A Hunter that only gets to use a bow, and a Seeker that gets 2 classic daggers as well as the Whip, that the player can use for flashy gap closers attacks and generally be super fast. The game added a lot of other new and reworked vocations, and at the end of its life had a total of 11 fun, unique and interesting vocations to choose from. Sadly, this Japan-only exclusive game got shut down in 2019. There are a couple of people who are working on reviving the game. I won't go into detail because I don't know if the devs want to shine light on the subject. But enough about that. Another thing that I love about Dragon's Dogma is this feeling of adventure when traveling across Grances. Obviously the open world is not the main reason why people play this game, but for me the feeling is nevertheless present. I mainly want to point out how well the realistic nights work. Exploring around with your party at night, not being able to see very far and only relying on lantern and distant lights, fighting foes that can only appear at night like the undead and the liches, feels like an adventure. It adds so much to the atmosphere and I wish more open world games would do this. There are a couple little things that also add to the atmosphere and adventure. Like I always like how you can hit an apple from a tree so it falls down on the ground so you can pick it up and eat it. And if it stays in your inventory for a couple of days it becomes moldy and eventually rotten. Little things like that put together really makes this game more special. Surprisingly enough, I don't have much to say about one of the iconic features of the game, the climbing. A player can climb any large monster for an advantage and hit it where it hurts. It's just another great option to use in combat, it's nothing but good. Now let's talk about Dragon's Dogma 2 and what I would like to see in the sequel. Spoilers for the original ahead. First, the story. It's so obvious that the story would transition well if they decide to continue from the first game, because the story is based around the cycle of Arisen. I would be completely fine if the next Arisen is not from anywhere near Grances. Completely different Arisen, who I would love to see voiced by the way, in a land that's different in culture and traditions. Perhaps Norse Arisen? And let's flesh out characters this time. Make them interesting and not just an NPC who will repeat themselves constantly and whose meme dialogue you will post on Reddit for 100th time.
The master works all, you can't go wrong.
I would also like to see more unique vocations. Like I said, they have already developed them in Dragon's Dogma Online, like Shield Sage, Spirit Lancer, High Scepter, Alchemist, and so on. Another thing that I think will work super well on Dragon's Dogma 2 are different weathers. Let's have something other than an average day. Let's have rain, thunder, snow, fog, wind, etc. It will make the game more dynamic, exciting, and add more replayability. Gameplay-wise, I want a universal stat growth this time. Like I said before, I don't want to be punished for switching vocations later on. It also goes without saying that the damage and armor values should work around percentages this time and not flat amounts. If you are not sure what I'm talking about, this video by Joseph Anderson goes into detail on how the damage calculation works. I will put a link in the description for you to check it out. And please, let's just remove very easy abusable menu healing and replace it with a system like Monster Hunter or maybe even Dark Souls. And no more wake stones, please. The last change I would like to see is very important to me and in my opinion will elevate the game to fantastic new heights. Online co-op. And not that shitty co-op that you can find on Dark Souls or Elden Ring, but a fully fledged online co-op where you can play the game from the beginning to an end with your boys. And it will work well with the pawn system as well, because you get to keep your pawn and your friend will get to keep theirs, and boom, that's a max party of 4 already. And that's it! Those are my thoughts about the original game and my wishes for the sequel. The original came out 10 years ago, and now that the Dragon's Dogma MMO got taken away from us, me and other Dogma fans are starving for something new. For now, thanks for watching. Subscribe, follow me on Twitch, throw a rook off the cliff, and see you next time.